What is dialectical materialism? The term dialectical materialism was not actually used by either Marx or Engels, but came to mean Marxist philosophy in the 1930s, when texts such as Stalin's Dialectical and Historical Materialism, and the textbook of Marxist philosophy, prepared under the auspices of the Leningrad Institute of Philosophy, began to codify the enormous body of work produced by the founders of Marxism into a set of laws applying to both society and the natural world. The main sources are the later works of Engels, and especially Anti-Düring, and the posthumously published Dialectics of Nature. Lenin's manuscript notes on Hegel's Science of Logic, written in 1914, and first published in 1929, are also an important point of reference. Dialectical materialism, often abbreviated as diamat, asserts the primacy of matter over consciousness, and of the material conditions of existence over intellectual life. In particular, as adopted by the Soviet Communists as their official philosophy, dialectical materialism refers to the belief that political and historical events result from conflict of social forces, and are interpretable as a series of contradictions and their solutions. And this conflict is believed to be caused by material's needs. We can make sense of the term more meaningfully if we view it from the vantage point of Hegelian philosophy. As is well known, for Hegel, the movement of history is driven by reason, or mind. So, in Hegelian philosophy, there is the primary of consciousness, or reason, over matter. In his engagement with Hegel's philosophy, Marx argues that it is matter that drives history. Hence, in Marx, there is the primary of matter over consciousness. This is precisely the context of Marx's famous claim that he has turned Hegel on his head. Now, it must be noted that in dialectical materialism, change is asserted to be the outcome of a dialectic between contradictory elements at every level, from social revolution to alterations in the composition of matter itself. This process is governed by three laws, namely, 1. The law of the unity and conflict of opposites. 2. The law of the transition of quantity into quality, and 3. The law of negation. The law of the unity and conflict of opposites states that all phenomena consist of mutually contradictory elements, and that change is the result of their internal contradictions. The law of the transition of quantity into quality describes how quantitative changes always lead to qualitative change. The movement that unites atoms into molecules is an example of the transition from quantitative to qualitative change in the physical sciences, while the accumulation of capital that eventually destroys the social structures of feudalism illustrates the same process at the socio-historical level. The law of negation is derived mainly from the first volume of Marx's Capital. Here, every stage of the development of the private ownership of the means of production grows out of its predecessor, and negates it. It is then negated in its turn by the development of its internal contradictions. Viewed from this perspective, capitalism is said to have come into being by negating or destroying feudalism, and will in turn be negated by the rise of socialism and communism. In his influential essay on the materialist dialectic, Louis Althusser understands dialectical materialism as a theory of scientific practices, which transforms the ideological products of social practices into knowledges or scientific truths. Critics of orthodox Marxism point out that the attempt to transform dialectical materialism into a philosophy of nature, or even of the natural sciences, turns it into a form of positivism or scientism.